Quick disclaimer before we begin today's video, I do want to say I made a I made a massive clerical error with part 1 yesterday. I used Queen Ramonda when I actually meant to say Nakia. Wrote down in my script, got my lettering confused. That's on me. Just wanted to make that apologies. So anyone, when you go back and you listen to part 1, I did not mean to say Ramonda. I meant to say Nakia. Thank you to my fellow subscribers in the comment section for pointing out that error. Really appreciate it. Thanks for the oversight. Without further ado, let's get into the story. Bakugo laid back in the seat of the jet as it continued making its way to the coordinates given by T'Challa. They were supposed to find this Nakia girl. She was working in a school dormitory in South America. Even more so, Bakugo wondered what help she could possibly be, especially given who they'd be going up against. Even though the suit was damaged, the jet that Bakugo was borrowing from Izuku had emergency repair stations just in case the armor were to take any damage. And thankfully, Jarvis had been running an analysis during the fight. From what he was able to gather, who they were going up against were quirk-enhanced individuals, mutated through years of evolutionary growth. Bakugo tried to make sense of it all, so Jarvis would explain in simpler terms. The beings you're going against, Mr. Katsuki Bakugo, have a higher threshold for pain tolerance, resistance, and strength, given that they have an affinity for breathing underwater, and with the great water pressures that lie in the lower depths of the oceans in and of themselves, if we are dealing with a race of individuals who derive their power from water-based quirks that allow them to live under the sea, then it's only natural that due to the environment that they were raised in, they would be a lot stronger when they're on the surface. As such, your weapons, as they are right now, are going to need to be heavily modified and upgraded if you're going to be able to throw any lasting damage upon them. Great, so I have to deal with fishmen who hit faster underwater. Terrific. We'll be arriving in our destination shortly. Can I get you and your guest anything? Hey, Stars and Stripes. You want something to eat? James would take whatever food was available, the two not really speaking very much. For Bakugo, it was easy to understand why. His friend had been severely wounded and was in a critical condition. If you're that worried about her, you should have just stayed behind. No one asked you to tag along. It's not about that. Yeah, then what is? If you're more upset about your girlfriend getting hurt, shut up. Figures. Then what's it really about? Why are you so gung-ho on trying to tag along in something that has nothing to do with you? Because you wouldn't understand. Fine. I'm not gonna force you to talk if you don't want to. It's about my family. Oh, God. Bakugo rolled his eyes. Of course, he had offered the boy a chance to talk. He said it didn't concern him. He was preparing to take a nap. Now he had to listen to yet another sob story. Whoop-de-whoop-de-woo. Truth is, I'm actually quirkless. What? I saw what you're very capable of doing. No one's able to rip off the door handles to a car if you're quirkless. I don't care how much you train. It's complicated. Well, uncomplicated. James tried to compose himself. I have power, but I don't have a quirk. My family comes from a line of, special individuals. Okay, and what makes you so special? Well, the thing that makes us special also, well, kind of ruined our family. It started with my great 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 grandfather. His name was Steve Rogers, the first Captain America. Hold on. You mean that war hero from America? The guy that carried around that shield? Yeah, that's who you're related to? I thought that you were just trying to pay homage or something like that. No, we're related. He was a part of a project, the Super Soldier experiment. It's what allowed him to have the enhanced strength that he did, making him peak human. Well, the thing is that back during that time, quirks didn't actually exist. You could say he was the world's first superhero in a lot of aspects, among others. But there was an issue. For a while, my family were all proud members of the military, and you could say that we served in the earliest forms of hero society. That was until quirks became a thing. Yeah, what about it? Well, you've heard about quirk marriages, haven't you? Bakugo was familiar with the concept. He even had a close associate whose birth was the product of such a thing. Well, during the early stages, when quirks were still being new into the world, the idea was that powerful people could be married together and they could produce powerful offspring. Of course, looking at my family lineage and with what we were capable of, giving a human in peak perfect condition a quirk on top of that, well, it seemed like a no-brainer. That was until the children were born. You see, the super soldier serum that runs through my family's blood, it works a little too well. On top of giving me the enhanced strength that I have, it also acts as a deterrent of sorts. A deterrent? Well, you see, anyone with my family's blood, you will inherit the power of the serum, but the serum also works as an anti-vax against quirks. So the best way to describe it is this. Take someone from my family who has no quirk, just the serum, marry them with any person that has a quirk. The child that's born will technically be quirkless. They'll have the power of the serum, of course, but no quirk to show for it. So you can imagine the disappointment for a lot of people when the children that were born from the first wave of marriages didn't produce the quirk that was affiliated with it. You could almost say that for my family, we're quirk killers. So, the once pristine Rogers family was now looked down upon, and people disassociated with us because, well, it wasn't that we were bad, but you couldn't really make what you wanted out of us. Wow, that actually is pretty tragic, Bakugo would say. The underlying feeling of not being acceptable, all because of what you were made up of. It's something I've gotten used to. I've had to live with it. I mean, for me personally, it doesn't really bother me all that much because, well, I figure I still have power. I can do some good with it. But it's hard when you're trying to live a normal life, trying to branch out. And whenever you meet someone, they think about the future, and the first thing you tell them is, hey, if you're thinking about passing on your quirk to your child, you can't because my messed up blood is going to ruin it. Kind of puts a lot of people off, and the stigma lives with you generation after generation. Quirks continue to develop, they get stronger, and a lot of times people, they don't just marry for love, they marry for the future, for what it can provide them, and it's kind of hard when they just think that you're not good enough. But Torin, she's different. She comes from a family in the UK. Wealthy. All of them heroes in their own right. Powerful. She has a powerful quirk. So, you can imagine her folks weren't too keen on her hanging around a boy who could mess up the family lineage, if you will. Yet even still, she never shied away from me. She never looked at me like I was a freak. She encouraged me. She inspired me to be better, to be a hero. And she got hurt on my watch. I don't know what you're involved in. I don't know who these guys are, but they're bad news. And I know that they need to be stopped. I just want to prove that I'm not a mistake. If anyone thinks that you're a mistake, then they're absolutely foolish. And besides, you've proven more than enough. Are you actually being nice to me? I'm just acknowledging your skill, that's all. Don't get it twisted. You're still a half-wit and a loser in every which way. But still, quirk, no quirk, or whatever strange power you have, no one should look down on it, especially when you're using it to help others. Isn't that the most important thing? Yeah, you're right. You know, you're not so bad, Pikachu. What the hell did you just call me? You know, Pikachu with the spiky yellow hair. And do I look like I spark electricity to you, Stars and Stripes? Okay, why you gotta keep calling me Stars and Stripes? Because you look like you got thrown up on by the Statue of Liberty. Or better yet, you look like you got ate by the Lincoln Memorial and that's why it crapped out. If you want to go, we can go anytime, my friend. Easier said than done. Why don't you put on the suit and let's go a few rounds? Trust me, I'm more than just a suit. All I need is one hand. You can tie the other one behind my back, and I'd still be able to kick your ass all across the 7 seas. I'd like to see you try. The two would bicker back and forth until they eventually arrived to the location where the coordinates had pointed them to. They found a stationary school, and after asking some of the locals, they were able to find the person they were looking for. A young girl who was helping with a school of kindergartners, getting them to their next class. She turned to see the two. At first, she was on guard as she had no idea who they were, but when she was shown the necklace, T'Challa's necklace, she knew immediately that whatever they had to say was urgent. The princess was kidnapped? What on earth is going on? Nakia would think to herself. How bad could the situation possibly be that she had to be called in? Look, T'Challa said that you'd be able to help us get Shuri back. He went off back home because something came up, and I haven't heard from him since. How long has it been? At least over 4 days. 4 days? Nakia would immediately go to her private quarters. There she had a piece of equipment capable of getting in touch with none other than the Queen herself. And much to her surprise, she had already gotten a message. The news was only more unsettling of T'Challa's defeat at the hands of Killmonger and his supposed death. The situation was only getting from bad to worse. Oh crap. What are we gonna do now? Bakugo thought. Our focus should still be on saving the princess. That is what's most important. Yeah, but then what? James would say. I mean, if this Killmonger guy was capable of taking over a country, safe to say we're going to be enemies of the state as soon as we get there. We have to do something. It's getting awful. He's stockpiling weapons. He looks like he's preparing for an assault. And it says that there are strange people from the sea. What, those aqua people? Aqua people? Yeah, they're strange mutants, quirk things, whatever. All that matters is that apparently they're fish people that live in the sea. And they seem to be working with this Killmonger guy. But what could they be after? The group had no way of knowing. No way of suspecting the true treachery that lied beneath. In the meantime, back in Wakanda, Killmonger, after taking the heart-shaped herb for himself, destroying the rest so that it could never be used against him, he ascended to the throne. He had the council dismissed, primarily because he sought no need for their input. Whatever they thought, whatever they wanted, didn't really matter. He made the rules now. Inside of the throne room with him would be none other than the mercenary Crossbones. I gotta say, when you came to my boss with this proposing plan of yours, we all thought that you were foolish and full of shit. Well, it serves you right. I got my end of the bargain done. How about you? We're gathering our forces together nicely. With Wakanda's aid, we'll be looking to set our sights on the U.S. That'll be the next stronghold. It's funny. They always brag about how powerful they are, and yet they have no idea a secret organization like Hydra is already working its way through the system. It's easier said than done, my friend. It's been a long time coming, and even then, Hydra's forces aren't as powerful as they used to be. But still, we do have our supporters. You're talking about that weirdo with the long nose all the way in Japan? Master Redestro recognizes the vision. The vision that we should no longer limit ourselves in what we're capable of. That true power and true freedom should be expressed. Yeah, whatever. All that matters is that I've got my hands on this land. And now, I ain't ever letting it go. Is this how you feel for avenging your father? Crossbones would ask. Everyone that's had a part to play in it's been dealt with. I'm just reaping the benefit. Wakanda tries to keep itself hidden from the world, but they don't seem to see the bigger picture. The world's filling up with powerful people. People that can't be outmatched for too long. I'm looking to get the drop on them before they get the drop on us. I'm doing what's best. They just don't realize it. My dad had the right idea, and they killed him for it. My uncle killed him for it. Well, I wish you luck on your newfound success. My associates will be arriving shortly to analyze the new weapons that you'll be so graciously offering us. We're finally going to be able to change the world into what we see fit. And speaking of which, what about our other ally? The prince? He's a king now. Is that right? And you handed him the Princess of Wakanda. The way I see it, it'll only build relations between the two nations. Atlantis, Wakanda, working together side by side. From what I've been told, they've got a pretty decent amount of vibranium down there also. No point in making them enemies. Not when we're all cut from the same cloth. In the meantime, Shuri found herself caught up in her own seated mess. By the time she awoken, she found herself long since from the surface above, having been drawn down into the watery depths below. With the help of specially made technology allowing her to breathe underwater, she was greeted by the ruler, Namor. "You have no reason to be fearful. I do not wish to bring you any harm." "Who are you? What do you want with me?" Namor would reach out his hand towards hers. "You are a guest. I welcome you to Talokan." "Talokan? Atlantis?" "No, please, do not use that term here. It is man-made and non-existent. What you all believe to be Atlantis is indeed Tal-Okan, an underwater paradise that I have protected, just as my forefathers protected." While Shuri was unsure, she couldn't help but admire the beauty. An underwater kingdom. But how was it even possible? "What you call quirks, they are actually gifts, and you surface dwellers do not know the full history of quirks in the world. It is not the first time that quirks came into existence." What? For Shuri, this was all a lot to take in. The original belief was that the first quirk came from a baby that glowed in China around 100 to 150 years ago. But there was more to the story than met the eye. No, quirks came and went. They developed in small parts of the world, like small flashes, pockets of civilization developing strange and ornate powers. For Namor and his people, around 400 or 500 years ago, they developed such powers among the people known as the Mayans. However, they were feared by others in ways that they did not understand. His ancestors were enslaved, butchered, tortured, hunted down, treated as demons. Things that at the time the land dwellers couldn't have possibly understood. However, among them a leader would rise, Namor's ancestor, the first Submariner. He would free his people, right the wrongs, and would take them under the waters where they resided. And since then, they grew in number. They made the seas their home, under the watery depths of below. Of course, Shuri was sympathetic to his plight, but there was still the matter of her going home. It only made the news more shocking and harder to bear, as Namor would explain that her brother, King T'Challa, tragically passed in tribal combat, and that someone new had taken the throne. Of course, for Shuri, she couldn't believe such a thing. It couldn't have possibly have been true. No one could have defeated her brother, and even more so, how could it have happened so suddenly? How would he even know? Of course, Namor explained that he wanted to establish relations with Wakanda, and as such, he was hoping to do so with the new king. It only left Shuri more in distraught, but still, for now, the only thing she could do was bide her time. She had no communications, no way of getting out, and even if she could, with the air pockets inside of the palace under the waters below, she wouldn't be able to do anything even if she could escape. Meanwhile, on the surface, just on the outskirts on a nearby island, Bakugo would land the jet with Nakia and James having specially made scuba gear. It was made personally so that they could go to the lower depths to where Shuri's tracker was showing her signature. Bakugo's suit was still being worked on inside of the ship, and even when it was complete, it wouldn't have been built for deep sea combat or diving. So for now, all he could do was stay on the surface and stay at the ready. Nakia explained that their simple goal was for immediate extraction and to get out of there as soon as possible. As James turned back to Bakugo, he could see that there was something bothering him. He could tell because when they were on their flight, Bakugo had gotten some news on the phone. It riled him. It riled him to the point where he crushed it and blew it up. But of course, they had already set their course, so he couldn't change and go home, although he knew he wanted to. Bakugo had recently gotten news about Midoriya, about how he had been kidnapped following that raid on the Shiei Saikai. Of course, he wanted to turn tail and move as quickly as possible to help his friend, but right now, he knew he couldn't. He knew his friend all too well, what type of person Izuku was. Izuku would always help those less fortunate than himself, even at the cost of himself, because that was the type of hero he wanted to be. But that was his best friend. His best friend could be anywhere for all he knows. He needed his help, and yet he was stuck halfway around the world being caught up in something he never wanted to be in. All the same, he'd see it through. He'd get them where they needed to go, and then he was out of there. Nakia and James would move under the water, eventually finding where Talokan was. Continuing to follow the tracker, they would make their way to the palace. Nakia would place bombs that were timed to go off for when they left. Hopefully, it would cause enough of a diversion to allow them a chance to escape. After making their way through the underwater palace, they would eventually find Shuri. Shuri was relieved to see Nakia once again, as they hadn't seen each other in a while, and even surprised to see that James was there as well. Of course, she was still distraught at the loss of her brother, which Nakia was also aware of. But now wasn't the time to dwell on such things. They needed to get out of there, which would be a lot easier said than done, as the guards soon found that their guest was trying to leave. James would cover their flank, defending them with his shield, as Nakia and James would get Shuri out of there, giving her a special made respirator allowing her to breathe underwater. Of course, though, in the midst of the escape, the bombs that were placed would go off, and they were powerful enough, killing 5 of Namor's guards. By the time he had learned of what had happened, it was already too late. Shuri was long gone, along with the perpetrators, and he was left with dead soldiers at his feet. His right-hand warrior, Atuma, would be inconsolable, as among those killed was his sister. This angered the king. There was supposed to be no death. That is what Killmonger promised him. And yet death was on his doorstep. His people's blood had been spewed all across his halls. At that point, all he could see was rage. He didn't care. He didn't care who was king. He didn't care who took charge. All he knew was that someone was going to pay for all of this death and destruction. Nakia and James and Shuri would make their way to the surface, bordering back onto the jet along with Bakugo as they hightailed it out of there, making their way to Wakanda. The jet would be set down on the borders, Bakugo letting them all out. Of course, this wasn't where they needed to be. They still had to make their way to rendezvous with the Queen, who had managed to take one of the heart-shaped herbs before Killmonger had ordered for the rest to be burned so that no other Black Panther could ever be formed. They were going to be meeting in the mountainous region where the Jabari tribe resided. Of course, James was prepared to guard the group as he knew Bakugo was going to want to get out of there. But much to his surprise, Bakugo would suit up, following the group and guarding them. They would soon rendezvous with the Queen, the mother and daughter being reunited, as they would continue until finally reaching M'Baku. They would go to his throne room, where he led over the tribe. He sat looking down upon the group eating a carrot. James tried to be formal and polite to introduce himself, only to be met with multiple grunts. They sounded as though they were trying to imitate the gorilla. James was quickly reminded that he was a foreigner, trespasser, and above all else, not invited. Of course, M'Baku joked they weren't going to eat him or anything. That was preposterous. However, the wildlife, they may not take too kind. But still, he spoke in jest. The Queen, however, would step forward to M'Baku, offering him the heart-shaped herb, believing that with his power, he would be capable of stopping Killmonger once and for all. You have your pleasantries, Queen, but I will not be the one to take the herb. For you, fortune smiles upon your family this day. Bring him in. The members of the Jabari tribe bringing in on a medical slab would be T'Challa, covered in snow and ice. You will be wise not to remove him. It seems as though the ice is the only thing keeping him alive. James couldn't help but point out the irony to Bakugo. You know, my great-great-great-great-great-great-great-grandfather got frozen in a block of ice like that. What? I know. Funniest thing, right? So he was fighting in World War II, and he was flying this big old ship, and apparently it was going to crash into a U.S. city and blow it up unless he put it in the water. So he put it in the Arctic Ocean to keep it from blowing everything up. But then he got frozen in the ice for like 100 years, and then he got unthawed, and he woke up in like the modern day. But that was like 200 years ago. And hold on, back it up. Why did he crash in the Arctic? Huh? I mean, why would he crash in the Arctic? He could have just crashed in the Atlantic. Then they could have recovered the ship and found his body. From what I'm told, we don't talk about it. Acting quickly, they would take the heart-shaped herb and turning it into a powder and then liquid. They would feed it to T'Challa, its healing properties working over him and awakening him once again. T'Challa was grateful to see Shuri, thankful to Bakugo and the others. He would reunite with Nakia after such a long time, the two being estranged, but still, there was a bond that the two shared, one that couldn't be broken. As T'Challa was recovering, he would look out from the mountains, looking down at Wakanda, seeing what it had become, and a great sadness, it fell heavy upon his heart. M'Baku would join the boy. Your father used to enjoy looking at Wakanda from this view. He said it felt as though he were looking upon all of his family. And look at what I have done to my family. I have only just become king, and this is the legacy I leave behind. My country, everything that they have fought so hard for, all reduced to nothing. Your father was a wise king, and even a great of husband and father. And yet it seems as though there was one thing that he did not teach his children. Tradition, T'Challa. You know why the Japari live far off from the other tribes? When Wakanda was first formed, we saw what was happening. A country was being built. Tribes that once fought against each other, all united as one. Your vibranium, your technology. Do you know what Wakanda is, boy? Wakanda is not a place on a map. It's not borders. It's not vibranium. It's not what your precious science can build. There are those who try to reduce Wakanda to be nothing more than that. But I assure you, it is something far greater. Wakanda is here. And Baku pointed to the boy's heart. Wakanda lives in you. It lives in me, your mother, your sister. No matter where you go in this world, you take Wakanda with you. As long as you believe that, Wakanda will never die. Even if they burn our homes to the ground, if our vibranium were to be destroyed, if everything we built came crumbling down, Wakanda lives because you live, because I live, because they live. I will never once believe that Wakanda will die. If just one man lives with Wakanda in his heart, then Wakanda as a whole survives. And with my last beating breath, Wakanda will live in me. But tell me, does it live in you? Do you believe with every fiber of your being? If so, then do not tell me that Wakanda is dead. I will not accept that from a king. T'Challa looked to M'Baku reinvigorated. His faith, although wavered, had restored. Wakanda could only die if he let it. And he would not let it die. Its legacy would live on. And it would not come to pass. T'Challa would turn to Bakugo and James respectively. He had asked so much of them, and yet even now, he still needed their help. Bakugo was going to give it to him. Because after all, when a hero is needed, they do what needs to be done. And for James, he wasn't going to turn down a friend in need. All three joined together by a common bond and understanding to do what was right. In the meantime, back in the States, the miracles of modern medicine could not be understated. What could normally cause someone years of pain and torture, it could be alleviated by some of the best. For Torin, she had received such care. Despite taking a grenade, point blank, despite being battered and bruised, having a sword run through her abdomen, she was actually recovering quite well. As she managed to take a phone call, immediately getting word back from James, who was surprised enough to see that he could get good cell reception, even if he was in another part of the world. Of course, Torin was immediately worried about him, wondering where he was, how he was doing. He would give her an update of the situation, and much to everyone's dismay, she was already out of the hospital, already having her hero costume put in hand, and already on the phone with her father. Thankfully, when you come from money and wealth, you can get things readily available to you. For example, you need a super fast jet that can get you halfway around the world within a reasonable amount of time? Well, that's what old money provides. Of course, James didn't want her to come. Not that he didn't think that she could help. She would be a major help, but he was worried about her. Only for the boy to be reminded that she too was a hero, and that her pride was also on the line. And if he was going into battle, he damn sure wasn't going in alone. Of course, it meant that they were going to miss school, but she had it covered. Thankfully, having money also meant that you could make as many excuses as you wanted. Although James would warn that that's a level of corruption that's going to come back to bite her in the ass one of these days. But Torrin simply scoffed it off. What's a few more little mishaps gonna do? She would be given the coordinates, and she was already on her way. In the meantime, Killmonger overlooked the country from his throne. As he walked to the window with Wakabe by his side, leader of the Rhino Riders. Today was the day that everything he dreamed of would come to fruition. He had suffered. He wouldn't deny it. The loss of a father, not knowing who his mother was, being pushed through the system, forgotten, left alone, taken in by the government to become their little kill toy, a weapon of mass destruction. He marked his body with every kill he committed. He was a hired hand, nameless, faceless, Eric Killmonger. He was the ultimate weapon. That's what they made him out to be, but no, he never forgot his roots. All that time, Wakanda never came for him. Forgot about him. His uncle left his father lying in a pool of his own blood with panther claws in his chest. Wakanda had all this power to do anything it wanted to. For all he knew, it probably wasn't the first time this had happened. Who knows how many other children out there were from Wakanda, left, abandoned, forgotten, all because they weren't like the others. They weren't true Wakandans. Well, no matter. Wakanda wanted to keep itself hidden from the world. Well, Killmonger was going to bring it to the world. He was going to show just how truly outmatched the world really was. And right on time, the borders would be opened as 5 distinct flying aircrafts made their way, marked with the insignia of Hydra. Baron von Strucker. Crossbones would greet his master, the leader of Hydra. "This is the new king," the Baron would say. "It is nice to make your acquaintance." Yeah, save all that small talk. "So what are your plans for all these new weapons?" "I am grateful for your generosity. The previous kings of old were so hard to negotiate with. But I believe you and I are on the same page. For far too long, this world has been governed by those who are wayward, lawless. I believe it's time we bring them a proper order. What about our third companion? Will he be joining us?" He was going to be joining them, except not in the way they would hope. The Baron's stay in Wakanda was short-lived, as a trident was pierced through his chest. He was speared to the wall. where he died. Namor flew high above them. Of course, the Hydra guards would attempt to shoot him down, but it was of little use. Killmonger kept his calm and cool demeanor. Was all that necessary? In case you forgot, this is the guy we're supposed to be working with, and you just up and smoked him. Save it. I have come for blood. Blood? What's this got to do with you? You and your people. There are mine who have died. Tell me, was this a part of your plan? Hold up now. I didn't have anyone killed, okay? I gave you the princess. After that, my hands are washed clean of you. Whatever happens, it's your business. It's my business becomes your business when my people die at your hands. It was your technology. You Wakandans did it. We didn't do anything. All right? I don't know how this is going to get to your thick skull, but I'm not responsible for what other people do. Spoken like a true king, a coward that hides behind the actions of others, a man that hides behind a skirt. Listen here, partner. I don't hide behind nobody. And you know what? I don't really appreciate you walking in here, dangling your would-be sea chains, wearing them green-ass tights, acting like you run shit. And you clearly don't. But you know what? I'm feeling generous today. You know what? You saved me a hassle. So let me do you a favor and clue you in on what's going on right now. I run this, not you. You think I need you? Your Talokan or whatever and whatnot? You're in Wakanda, my country. And you better get some act right, or otherwise I'm gonna get it for you. And you don't want me to get it for you. You talk a big game. But tell me, are you prepared for my people to march onto this land and lay waste to everything? It was foolish of me to trust you. You are no different than other surface dwellers. And the only good surface dweller is a dead surface dweller. You trying to pick a fight? You really want to go there with me? Because I'll have you know, I'm not like these other kings. If you want to start something, I'm finishing. So last time, get the hell out of my kingdom. All of their deaths will be on your hands, Your Highness. Namor flew off to meet with his forces to prepare for battle, to storm the land. Killmonger would order for an emergency evacuation and have everyone get ready for war. T'Challa, James, and Bakugo watched from the mountains as they saw something was stirring in Wakanda. It was just then they would get reports on an army coming from out of the sea. An army of blue men, warriors of the ocean, marching towards Wakanda, being led by a man that could fly with wings on his feet. You've got to be kidding me, Bakugo would say. We got to deal with an army of fishmen? Well, now would be a good time to call some allies if we had any. It's just us, T'Challa would say. I don't know what he's done, but we have to stop him now. We cannot afford to wait. T'Challa and the others would begin to make their move. As they descended down the mountain, the tribe of the Jabari led by T'Challa, accompanied by Bakugo, the War Machine, and James Rogers, Captain America. Their forces all gathering down at the base, heading towards the mainlands. As the walls, the inner gates of Wakanda would open. Killmonger stepping out with the army of Wakanda. The Rhino Riders led by Wakabe. The Dora Milaje led by Okoye at his side. Namor and the people of Talokan following behind him. Of course, much to his surprise, Killmonger saw the Jabari tribe making their way. Who's them? Killmonger asked Wakabe. It seems as though the Jabari are coming to join us. Another tribe of Wakanda. Another tribe. Oh yeah, the mountain dwellers. It looks like they finally recognized the king. I am not so sure. What are you talking about? Look who walks among them. Although walk would be a stretch, because T'Challa was running. Son of a bitch. What's up? The challenge is not over. And as you can clearly see, I am not dead. Yeah, forget about all that challenge shit. I'm the king now. But I'm feeling generous, so I'll do you a favor. You get out of my face. You go fight the fishman. Serve your country and your king like you're supposed to. And maybe I'll exile you. You don't understand, Killmonger. I'm not asking you, I'm telling you. You do not have the throne. And you do not have Wakanda. Yeah. Somebody smoked this fool. One of the warriors were prepared to shoot their shot, only for Okoye and the Dora Milaje to stop him. If T'Challa was alive, then the challenge was not over. This caused a level of stir and unrest. So what, y'all ain't gonna listen? Your king gave you an order, you do it. I said, take him out. Namor would come in next, ready to collide with Killmonger and T'Challa. So you are still alive. And I take it you lead these people, T'Challa would ask. It makes no difference. I don't care which one of you are king. You will both rest with the other kings when this day is over. I am sorry. I don't know what has happened. But please, can we try to find another way? There is no other way for me. Who will pay for the death of my people? Will you? And will you? I will still require more bodies. I do not wish for anyone to die. I want there to be peace. You keep talking about peace, Killmonger would say, as his suit began to materialize on his own body. But I feel like you want the other thing. Always trying to play the hero, trying to be humble. I am sorry about your father, but that has nothing to do. It has everything to do with us. Whether you like it or not, I have a right to the throne. I beat you fair and square. I crippled you. I showed that without that Panther power, you ain't nothing. I threw you off that cliffside and you should be dead. I don't know how you're still alive. Maybe your mama, your sis, did they help you? That's fine. After I'm done with you, I'll make sure I put them in the ground right next to you. You think so? I'm trying to make peace, but let me make it perfectly clear to either of you. Wakanda will not fall, and I will do what I must. That is the one thing I agree with, Namor would say. So I guess we're done talking then. Alright, well let's get to it. The three would begin their fight immediately, as the armies followed soon after. The people of Talokan battling against Wakanda. The Jabari aiding their Wakandan brothers, fighting off defending invaders. It became almost a free-for-all on all fronts. Okoye and the Dora Milaje battling against Atuma and the forces of Talokan. The three-way battle between the three rulers and leaders to determine the fate of Wakanda and, more importantly, the fate of the rest of the world. Bakugo and Roger following in overhead, with James taking the forefront, fighting against Crossbones, who after the sudden death of the leader of Hydra, now found him the one in charge. For Hydra, it didn't matter. They already had their own ulterior motives. It didn't matter to them who was king or not. They were in Wakanda. They were going to take what they came for, and then they were going to be out. Of course, it would be easier said than done, especially when the boy in Stars and Stripes decided to make a comeback. I thought I left you for dead back in the States. But it looks like you and your family never seem to learn when to quit. Crossbones would engage in combat with James once again, knocking the boy back down. But much to his credit, he got back up. Don't underestimate Roger. We can do this stuff all day. Of course you can. Of course you can. You were built for it. Fortunately for you, Hydra was built to stop people just like you. Allow me to show what I mean. With that, Crossbones and James would engage each other. Bakugo, in the meantime, joining the other Wakandan forces on the ground. His suit now reinforced and enhanced to take the fight straight to the Talokans. Atum among them. Remember me, bastard? Well, eat explosion! The grenade gauntlets built into the suit would open point-blank fire straight into his chest, knocking him back across the ground as he stood to his feet. You would have been wise to run while you could, metal man. I will not make the same mistake twice. Yeah. Like I haven't heard that before. And I'm still standing. So if you really think you can take me out, then bring it. Bakugo would engage with the leader of Namor's forces, while Namor, Killmonger, and T'Challa fought in a three-way deadlock, neither one backing down even for a moment. Namor tried to keep the advantage by fighting in the air, only for him to being brought back down once again. As the fight would continue, a ring of fire formed around them, much to Namor's discomfort, as the flames were affecting him, drawing away the moisture that he needed for his body. The fight became more evenly matched between the three, each one looking to take the other out, Killmonger going for the kill strike, and Namor doing the same. T'Challa, in the meantime, was looking to fend them both off and to stop them. He knew that Namor was the only one that could haul the forces of his people. For Killmonger, he had to incapacitate him, or to take him down permanently. Of course, he didn't relish in the idea of doing this. He didn't want it to even come to that point. If he could still save him, he would. But he had to save his country by any means necessary. Much to their dismay, the left dam wall of Wakanda would break. Some of the members of the Talokanian forces had broken it down, with water beginning to flood through Wakanda, and yet another battalion making their way through. It seemed like they were going to enclose them on both sides, to trap them with no way out and to destroy them. However, in the sky, a jet that was streaming across with a girl on top of it. She would pat the window to the pilot, who gave her the thumbs up. As she fell from the sky itself, as James looked up, he already knew who it was. The bellowing of thunder sounding behind her. "What's the matter, kid? Scared of a little lightning?" "No, but you're not going to be fond of what follows." James would kick him out of the way as a lightning strike would hit Crossbones directly in the chest, knocking him down as Torin had joined the fight. She shot off generated lightning in every direction, managing to cut through some of the forces that had made their way. "Took you long enough." "Oh, please. I know you. You could have kept going for at least another 24 hours before you even broke a sweat. So don't be such a baby. It's good to see you again, Torin." "Likewise. Now, whose ass do I have to kick?" Together, the two of them would work side by side, sword and shield, a strength and a defense. Crossbones found himself on the receiving end of a severe ass-kicking. So much so that he was left almost with no choice. He would get word through his own intercoms that the ships had their payloads and that they were ready to take off. As long as they escaped, that was all that mattered to him. He figured, why not take as many with him as he could before he left? "It's over, Crossbones. Give up." "Kid, that is the dumbest thing I have ever heard. I'll see you in hell. Hail Hydra." He would cause a self-explosion with the grenades on his own body, looking to take out both James and Torin. James used his shield, although the wrist gauntlet that emitted the powerful energy shield would be broken in the process. With no access to his regular shield, he had no choice but to pick up the shield of a fallen Wakandan warrior, using that instead as he and Torin would continue the fight. Meanwhile, Bakugo could see that the ships that had the vibranium were beginning to take off. Shuri would instruct him to track him down. If they left, if just one got away, Bakugo understood. Putting the suit into overdrive, he followed and trailed behind each one, blasting and firing at them all. One by one, each ship would crash into the ground below. The last one, looking to get to the exit, Bakugo chasing behind it with everything he had. Catching it at the last moment, he used all of the sweat built up in one of the gauntlets, pulling out the pin and firing the explosive shot, shooting off its wing as it went crashing down below, smacking into the wall of the Wakandan border itself. With all of the ships taken down, Bakugo would engage with the enemy once again. Namor had reached his limit. His left leg's Achilles tendon had been slashed, along with one of the wings on his foot, not allowing him the chance to fly off. He had taken a severe beating from Killmonger and from T'Challa, with Killmonger looking to deal the finishing blow, only for T'Challa to stop him at the last second. As they continued the battle once more, Killmonger looked to deliver a finishing blow to T'Challa, as he had managed to kick one of his blades into the air. He had hoped to create distance and grab it, and to impale him. But before he got the chance to, T'Challa was a bit faster, and he managed to get the drop on him first. Damn. Good move, cuz. As Killmonger fell over, T'Challa went to his side, removing the blade immediately. He tried to begin work on healing him. If he acted quickly, he could stop the wound. What the hell are you doing? I'm trying to save your life. What? Yes, even after everything you've done. I am not going to let you die here. My father made that mistake. I will not follow in his path. You got a kind heart. Dumb as hell, though. As Namor slowly staggered to his feet, T'Challa looked over to him. Is this enough bloodshed? Are you satisfied? How many more of our people have to die until your vengeance is quenched? This cycle, it will consume both of our nations until there is nothing. If you wish to keep fighting, I will fight you till the end. If we both should die, then let it be. But who will lead your people? They still need you. Namor looked around. There were dead Wakandan soldiers, dead Talokanians. The death had grown on both sides, and there would be no more. With the last of his strength, Namor would bellow out a war cry that could be heard all across the battlefield. His soldiers would stop as T'Challa would help him, walking through the flames. Bakugo flew down with his guns drawn, ready to take him out if need be. Help him in the sky, Bakugo. He needs to speak to his people, to call off the fighting. Cautiously, Bakugo would fly him into the air. As Namor spoke in their native tongue, he would tell them to stop, that the fighting would cease, and that they were to return to their home. Of course, there were those who felt this if they couldn't stop now. They had come too far. They had done too much. But Namor felt differently. No more bloodshed. With that, the people would take their fallen and would begin to leave, heading back to the ocean depths below. Namor looked to T'Challa. You are a wise king, wiser than even I myself. No, I am many things, but I am not a wise king. I am just a man who has made many mistakes. I can only be better. I have to be, for them. And you can be too. Namor would take a solid nod as he would leave, escorted by some of his soldiers. They made their way down to the watery depths below. In the meantime, Killmonger would be taken in chains, as he would be taken down to the prison cells of Wakanda below. T'Challa would take back the throne, announcing for the fighting to end. Right now, healing was in order. That was the only thing that mattered. It would be a process. There would be mourning for those that were lost. And this day would be marked in history to serve as a reminder. What they saw today, what they could have done, what they could have become, was not what Wakanda was meant to be. It would be a process. But T'Challa planned to move things in the right direction. He had thanks to the allies he had made along the way, who came to his aid in his time of need. Of course, they were all getting ready to set off to make their way back to their respective homes. Torin, James, Bakugo. Of course, before James could leave, there was something that T'Challa wanted to give him. For you. It was under a cloth. It was round in shape. But James recognized it immediately. I know that it cannot replace the one that the great Steve Rogers once used. That was sadly lost to the hands of time. But if this could go to anyone, I trust it with no one else but you. Please take it as a gift. A shield, for you truly have the valor and the respect, and you have my thanks. For Torin, she was given a specially made vibranium sword, one that could conduct and channel her lightning with ease. It's beautiful, because you are a warrior that descended from the heavens above, and you came to our rescue. Then finally, he turned to Bakugo. I don't really need anything, man. I mean, I appreciate it, but come on, just take it. It's a deposit of vibranium. I think that it's more than enough for you and for your friend Izuku. I'm sure you all will be able to make great use of it in the future. And for any of you, if you ever need my help, you have the debt of the Black Panther and of Wakanda. I will not forget the kindness that you have shown me today. T'Challa would bow to the three of them. It was definitely something else to say the least, but the three would bow in return. If he ever needed help, they were only a call away. For Bakugo, this had been a life-changing mission, one that he would not soon forget. But as he was preparing to head home, he would be stopped. It was Shuri. You're heading back home, I see. Yeah. Just got some news. I really need to go. I hope I can see your school someday. Yeah. A lot of cool stuff there. A lot of cool people. Do you promise to show me around? I'm sure you'll find a lot of people better than me. But I want it to be you. I mean, you're always having such explosive moments. I could think of no one better. Sure. Promise? Fine. I promise. I'll show you around the next time you're in Japan. It's a date! Shuri quickly ran up and kissed his cheek before running off. Bakugo had no idea how to take this, but okay, whatever. It was time for him to head back home. Safe to say, this journey had been way more than he could have possibly have thought. As he was preparing to fly off, he saw that James and Torin were heading into their respective aircraft to head back home. He didn't do too bad out there, hey Pikachu? Yeah, you didn't do too bad yourself, Stars and Stripes. The two of them would bump fists. Don't go breaking any more laws, huh? I could say the same to you. After all, you don't have an international hero license. None of us do, Torin would say. So, unless we want to have our teachers riding up our ass, I suggest we all keep on the low, right? Yeah, definitely. But, take care. See you around. Whenever you're in America, stop by. We've got amazing burgers. Really, you should try them. Yeah, and if you're ever in Japan, what? Try the ramen? What's that supposed to mean? You think all Japanese people just eat ramen, huh? Is that the assumption? No, I meant no disrespect. I'm really sorry, and the ramen's actually pretty damn good. Way better than that cheap crap you guys make. Yeah. Although, honestly, I'd rather just cook it myself from scratch. Tastes a lot better. Ooh, you cook? Torin would say. I dabble in the kitchen. I wish a certain someone here would take up that skill. Hey, I try my best. You call peanut butter and jelly trying? I mean, hey, if you can't enjoy a good PB&J, then are you really living? I'd like to think that I am. Now come on, let's get a move on. With that, the groups would say their respective goodbyes, watching Wakanda disappear into the distance as they returned to their respective homes. As James and Torin were looking to relax and enjoy the ride, James's phone would go off. It was a call from the number 12th ranked hero in the United States and his teacher, aka Sam Wilson, also known as the Falcon. Hello? James? I'm at your dorm and I don't seem to see you there. So where the hell are you? Took care of business, helped save the world. You know how it is. Yeah, I do. Now where the hell are you? It's a long story, but I promise, me and Torin can explain. You son of a... Why would you... So Miss Torin's there with you too, huh? Yeah. When you two land, both of you, in my office, immediately. As the phone hung up, James would slump in his chair. Torin simply gave him a look. It's not my fault, snitch. Goody two-shoes. Stars and Stripes. That's not even an insult. It is to me. Idiot. Okay, I deserve that one. And that's pretty much everything that happened, Bakugo would say to the group. Izuku especially is stunned to hear all that had transpired. Wow, I can't believe you went through all that, Kachan. I mean, I'm sorry that I put all of that on you. It's nothing compared to what you went through. I mean, seriously, I take one mission out of the country and I have to come back to find that you got kidnapped by terrorists, an evil classmate of all people, and that they almost blew up half of the world? I mean, seriously, how'd you get into this crap? The shy is done, who would like a cup? Pravita would say to everyone. At least everyone that was listening. Well, at the very least, you made it back home, and that's all that's important, Izuku would say. And I'm grateful for the vibranium. It actually came in handy. Say, what did you do with it anyway? I'm working on a project. Trying to bring back an old friend. What are you really up to, Izuku? Well, I guess I might as well show you. But don't tell it to everyone, alright? Why? What exactly are you trying to do, Izuku? Trying to bring back a friend. Bring back a friend? It's a long story. Well, don't let me stop you. After all, I've got nothing but time. It could take a while. I don't care if it takes forever. Just get on with it. Sure thing. Well, where do I start? Izuku would say to the group. They had a lot to catch up on. A lot indeed. This concludes My Hero Academia, Iron Man Armored Adventures, the movie Wakanda Forever, Part 2, the Part 2 movie finale. Well, with the end of this movie, this officially ends the Season 2 portion of Iron Man Armored Adventures, My Hero Academia, What If Deku Was Iron Man? And as always, I want to take the time to say thank you. Thank you to everyone who has followed along with this series. I had a lot of fun with Season 2, with the story of Season 2, with everything I was able to add to the story, with the world building. It was just fantastic. And I want to say that with a story like this, is kind of what I want Phase 2 to really be all about. It's about telling all of the stories post-multiverse adventure, setting up things in the future, not just for the multiverse, but for these worlds in general. You know, like, I don't want it to just be focused on multiverse to multiverse to multiverse, but I want to tell individual stories, unique stories in and of themselves, ones that can stand on their own, even without all the crossovers. And while the crossovers are fun, I always want to have fun with the individual stories as well. I appreciate all of your support. Like I say, can't do it without you. You make the channel grow. You make the core grow. But anyway, that's going to do it for the end of today's video. I'm Javon Harrington with Power Core Productions and Podcastings. Signing off, and I'll see you next time.